Adrian had always been certain about the kind of woman he wanted. He had a picture in his mind, a woman who was elegant, quiet, graceful, and perfectly suited to the life he imagined for himself. Then there was Clara. From the moment they met, Adrian dismissed her. "She isn't my type," he told his friends. When someone suggested that Clara might be a good match for him, he laughed. "Absolutely not. She's not my dream woman." In fact, Adrian openly disliked her. He found her too outspoken, too independent, and too different from the woman he had imagined himself loving. Clara never argued with him about it. She simply smiled and continued living her life. Months passed, and circumstances brought them together again and again. Slowly, Adrian began noticing the things he had once refused to see. The kindness she showed when nobody was watching, the strength with which she faced difficult days, and the warmth she carried even when life gave her every reason to become bitter. One evening, Adrian found himself sitting beside her after a particularly fateful day. For the first time, he spoke to her without judgment. Clara listened. She didn't try to impress him. She didn't remind him of all the times he had rejected her. She simply listened. And something inside him changed. He began looking forward to seeing her. Then he began missing her when she wasn't there. And eventually, the man who had once declared that Clara was everything he did not want found himself falling helplessly, completely and deeply in love with the very woman he had once despised. His friends noticed. "You said she wasn't your type." "I know." "You said she wasn't your dream woman." Adrian smiled sadly. "I know." "Then what happened?" Adrian looked across the room at Clara. She was laughing, completely unaware that the man who had once rejected her was now watching her as though she were the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. "I was looking for a woman who matched the dream in my head," he said quietly. "I never realized I was standing in front of the woman who could become my home." Years later, Adrian would sometimes think about the words he had once spoken. Not my type, not my dream woman. He wished he could take them back because Clara had never needed to become his type. She had simply become the person his heart chose. One rainy evening as they sat together, Adrian took her hand. "Do you remember when I said you weren't my dream woman?" he asked. Clara laughed softly. "How could I forget?" He lowered his eyes. "I was so sure I knew what love was supposed to look like." He squeezed her hand. "I was wrong." Clara looked at him. Adrian's eyes filled with tears. "You were never the woman I dreamed about," he whispered. "You became something much more precious. You became the woman I thank God I didn't lose." Clara said nothing. She simply leaned against his shoulder, and Adrian held her tightly, realizing that sometimes the greatest love story begins with the words, "She is not my type." Because the heart does not always fall for the person we imagine. Sometimes it falls for the person we once rejected. And if we are brave enough to admit that we were wrong, we may discover that the person we never dreamed of loving was the person our heart had been waiting for all along. And Adrian knew one thing with absolute certainty. If he had been given the chance to live his life again, he would not change a single thing except those first cruel words. Because he would rather have met Clara and loved her 1,000 times than spend one lifetime never knowing that the woman he once called not my type would become the love he could never live without. May this story inspire you today.